I'm wild again, beguiled again, a simpering, whimpering child again, bewitched, bothered, and bewildered am I. Hi, everybody. Ally Waldman back with Sundays with Ally Part 2 for October 15th, 2012. And why am I bewitched, bothered, and bewildered? Because I'm still a little flablungent from my trip to New York, where I had the great good fortune of having a chance to meet Barbra Streisand, as if you don't know, and hand her Barbra Memories, the book that I worked on with fans around the world, telling our stories of why we love Barbra, how we discovered her, and what we would say if we had the chance to express our feelings and gratitude towards her. So it was a wonderful experience creating the book. It was an even more wonderful experience seeing it published, getting it to New York, having the book signing at Jerry Ollinger's, meeting so many fans and so many people who've been watching me, and then the ultimate, bringing it to the arena, getting into the backstage party, getting past all the security checkpoints. And I don't mean security as in, we're checking for, guns and knives. These were just people in between me and my goal of reaching Barbra. When I did finally reach her, as I told you in yesterday's broadcast, everything worked out great, and I was able to hand her the book, and I was able to put it in her hands as I had hoped and, expressed my sincere wish that I would successfully be able to do that, not only for myself, but for everybody who really contributed to the book. And I can only hope now that Barbra truly has some time, maybe on the flight to Montreal, maybe she opened up the book and looked at it and read some of our stories, and, smiled. Maybe she smiled a smile that she never smiled before. But for me personally, I am still bewitched, bothered, bewildered, and be-Barbra'd after the experience of going to the 2 concerts and going to the book signing, meeting so many wonderful fans, going to the Streisand Salute, which was put on by Broadway Cares on Friday night, and all these wonderful singers doing the Streisand Songbook. I mean, how great was that? It was just, in every way, shape, and form, a great, great experience. But I promised you tonight that I was going to talk about some specific incidences that happened. And I'll do all this now before we get to talking about the concert. At the backstage party, I had the chance to not only speak with Jay Landers, who's Barbra's Sony A&R guy. We talked about Release Me and going through the vault and the liner notes, and Jay was very, very nice, very, very responsive, and very, very thrilled at how well this album has turned out. And as I mentioned last night, it was just publicized now online. Barbra and Jason set a new record together. They're the first mother and son to ever have the #1 albums on Amazon in the same week of release. So amazing, amazing. Release Me, I think, is an amazing album. I think most of you agree with me and agree with my review that this is a wonderful collection of very, very different songs from different eras, but the bottom line is it's a great album. I mean, I think we're going to be listening to this one for months and months and months without having to change anything on the iPod. So that was Release Me. So talking to Jay was fun. Also at the party was Barbra's sister, Rosalind Kind. Now, I had met Rosalind once, probably 15 years ago, so I know she didn't remember me. But she came over because she saw Craig Hall, and she recognized Craig, and she was introduced to Matt Howe, and I introduced myself to her again, and we had a really, really nice talk about well, not really about Barbra, mostly about, the experience, the weekend, what was going on, family parties. Roz was going to a lot of family parties, which I have a sneaking suspicion Barbra might have been going with her to some of those parties, which would also account for why Barbra was so busy on, Thursday night. And I asked Roz, how proud are you of your nephew? And she basically said that, her heart was like pounding out of her chest. She was so proud of Jason. And then I commented that, well, great music seems to run in her family. And Roz agreed, from her grandfather who was the cantor to Diana, and then Barbra and her, and now Jason. That's a very, very talented family. And Roz was very, very sweet. She's lost a lot of weight. She looked beautiful. And I told her so. I told her she looked gorgeous. I use that word, gorgeous. And she, of course, was, oh, no, I need to get to the gym. I haven't toned up. Don't get me wrong, folks. She looked terrific. Rosie is looking really, really good. And she did mention that she's got some, concerts coming up herself, some dates. So you might want to check out Rosie's website and see what she's up to. Because if you can't get to a Barbra concert, sometimes it's fun to go to a Roz concert. Now, one of the people who I met at this Barbra party, this VIP party, was Bob Scher. Now, who is Bob Scher? Bob Scher was the stage manager for I Can Get It For You Wholesale. So he was an older gentleman, but smart as a whip, very, very funny. And he told me some really great stories about Barbra. Like, for example, he got Barbra her apartment over Oscar's Salted the Sea restaurant. And Oscar didn't want to rent the apartment to Barbra because he didn't really like women. He thought women don't pay the rent, and he didn't want to rent the apartment to her. But Bob convinced him, because Bob said, look, she's in rehearsals for I Can Get It For You Wholesale. She's going to make money. She's going to pay her rent. The girl right now is sleeping in offices on a pull-out sofa on a cat. Please give this girl a break. So, long story short, Oscar relented, gave Barbra the apartment. I asked Bob, I said, did the apartment really smell of fish? I mean, is that story true? And he said, yeah, it really did stink. Now, interesting little sidebar to that story is Bob said a few years later, when Bette Midler was doing Fiddler on the Roof, he got Bette an apartment in the same building. Not the same apartment that Barbra had, but an apartment in that same building. So imagine, that building once had Barbra Streisand and Bette Midler as tenants. How's that, folks? I think that's pretty cool. I asked Bob if it was true that Barbra was often late showing up for rehearsals and showing up for the curtain on I Can Get It For You Wholesale. And he told me that in no uncertain terms, she nearly got fired before the show ever opened. She missed the train to Philadelphia for the out-of-town tryout of the show. It was going to play, I think, at the Erlanger Theater, and she missed the train out of Grand Central. So Bob stayed behind and made sure that she got on the next train, and he got her to Philadelphia, and he lobbied for her to keep the job. So, it was really, really tough. He also said the original conception for the part of Miss Marmalstein, they wanted to have an older actress play the part, and they actually wanted Nancy Walker. Now, if you don't remember the name Nancy Walker, you might remember her as Rhoda's mom on the Mary Tyler Moore Show and the Rhoda Show. And she was also the lady who sold Bounty towels. Nancy Walker, look her up on YouTube or Google, folks, because she was a hilarious woman. She was a brilliant comedian. She actually was also in On the Town, the original On the Town on Broadway, which includes the song that Barbra sang in the concert, Some Other Time. So that's just a little, side note. So interestingly enough, they wanted Nancy Walker for the part, but then when Barbra came along, they said, she's too good, and the part of Miss Marmalstein can be played by a woman of any age, so they gave the part to Barbra. But Barbara, being sort of I guess, somewhat of an undisciplined talent at the time, she had a lot of things going on, a lot of ideas going on. She wasn't really great at making it to the theater on time. So thank you, Bob Scher, for those wonderful stories. Now, my Liza Minnelli story. So you're going to like this one, folks. When on Saturday night, as we were sitting, I had floor seats, so I was in a really good place to see the stars arriving. And on Saturday night, who comes walking in but Liza Minnelli, and her escort for the night was Robert Osborne from Turner Classic Movies. And the two of them, cut quite a striking figure because, Liza's got that jet black hair and Bob Osborne is tall and has white hair. So the two of them looked quite stunning, but everybody recognized Liza. I mean, how could you not recognize Liza Minnelli? And she literally got a standing ovation for walking into the arena and taking her seat. And Liza was very gracious. A lot of people ran to her and tried to get her picture, and she was she seemed very gracious. She was very nice. After the concert was over, as I was plotting on where I was going to go to get backstage to get to the VIP party to meet Bob and Liza went walking up the aisle on their way out of the arena. And I don't know where it came from, but for some reason I called out, "Hi, Liza!" And she looked back at me and she went, "How you doing, honey?" And I responded, "I'm doing great. You look great, hon." I don't know where that came from. Where that kind of chutzpah in me came from, that I was just calling out to Liza Minnelli like she was my old buddy. I don't know. I must have been like already high from Barbara's concert, because I was in such a good mood at that point that, she's probably lucky I didn't go over to her and ask her if she wanted to dance a jig or something. So Liza was very cool. Very cool. Now, let's talk. It's at 12:16. I better start talking now. I got to tell you about the concert. The concert is fantastic. I know you guys have read a lot of the reviews. I've also been told not to give away too many spoilers, so I'm not going to say too much or too little. I'm going to say just enough, and then I walk. Quick, what movie is that from? You know it's from Funny Girl. Anyway, the show is great. There are elements of the show that are from, past Barbra shows, As If We Never Said Goodbye, even though they have new lyrics. The Barbra Questions section, that's all, we had that in 2006. And the Funny Girl Overture at the beginning is from 2006. But, here's the important part. The film at the beginning is brand new. We've never seen it before. I mean, we've seen snippets on YouTube, but nothing like what you're seeing at the concert. Jason's film is entirely new. We've never seen it before. Gorgeous, just gorgeous. And his vocal, he sings Nature Boy. Oh, it's so beautiful. And then they even show the duck sauce video, Barbra Streisand, which is pretty funny. And they also show a little bit of the Kevin Burns documentary, I Remember Barbara, which I don't know if you guys ever saw it, but it's been on YouTube for a while. But they cut it really well, so you get like a nice little 10-minute pastiche it's the summer of 1979, and it's what people in Brooklyn were thinking and saying about Barbra Streisand. Very, very funny. So if you go to the concert, you're going to see all that stuff. Now, musically, you're going to get a great selection of songs. I mean, Barbra sings some of her classics that we love and know so well. She also throws in a lot of songs that I just adore. Things like Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered, which I just sang, and My Funny Valentine. And she adds What'll I Do, which is an Irving Berlin song. She sings it just beautifully, really, really beautifully. She also sings the duet, How Deep is the Ocean, with Jason, as I mentioned, I think, yesterday, which is just, waterworks. Bring tissues, folks. You're going to cry. It's really, really beautiful. The Gypsy songs are great. And I have a theory about the Gypsy songs. My feeling is this. Barbara sings Being Good Isn't Good Enough right before she sings the two Gypsy songs. And I think Being Good Isn't Good Enough in her intro to it talks sincerely about the fact that, you question, as an artist, you question whether or not you're good enough to deliver the goods. Will you be strong enough to do what you set out to do? Will you have enough time to achieve all your goals? And I think Barbara put that at the beginning to set up the two songs that she sings from Gypsy to show that she has contemplated whether or not she can do this part, whether she's strong enough, whether she has enough time to do it. Then she sings Rose's Turn and Some People. And then, as sort of the topper to all of that, after showing that she could definitely sing those songs and sing them really well, then she sings Don't Rain on My Parade. And to me, the Don't Rain on My Parade finale is like a big, you don't think I can do it? I'm going to show you I can do it. And don't you dare rain on my parade. You don't think I can do Gypsy? Watch me. I'm going to do Gypsy. So I think that whole Julie Stein number is all about Gypsy. And I think it's going to happen. And I know I've been saying that forever, but I know it's going to... Actually, I don't think it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. Now, I don't want to... Like I said, I don't want to give you too many more hints about the concert because I don't want to get any kind of an email saying, you said too much, you said too much. Trust me, the show is great. You're not going to be disappointed. Barbra sounds fantastic. I think she sounds even better than 2006. Now, I did want to tell you this one other thing. Yesterday, when I told you about meeting Barbra, I made a point of saying that she looked at me very, very seriously and said, "You're a very, very good writer," which, of course, was the ultimate compliment for me. I mean, that meant more to me than anything else, to be recognized for my writing. And I didn't even realize it at the time, folks, but that statement is almost coming full circle, and I'll tell you why. In Barbra Memories, my story includes the story of when I first wrote an essay about Barbra Streisand. I was in 8th grade, and I got out of gym class, and I was sent to the library and told to write an essay on anything I wanted to write on. And having just become a big Barbra Streisand fan, I sat down and wrote an essay about Barbra, about what a brilliant star she was, how Newsweek had dubbed her a superstar because there was nobody like her in show business, and she had, accomplished everything she could possibly accomplish, and she was still only 27 years old. And I wrote this essay, and when I handed it to my gym teacher, whose name was Miss Fitzgerald looked at it and read it, and the first thing she said to me was, "Did you copy this out of an encyclopedia?" And I said, "No, every word is mine. I wrote that myself." And she said to me, "You should be a writer. This is very good. You're a good writer." Now that was 1970, 1969 even. I'm not even sure what year it was. It was a long time ago. But that was the first time that anybody had ever told me that I was a good writer. And that's what sort of led me down my path to become a writer, because I always knew in my mind that was something I was good at. And then I went, of course, to college, and I studied writing, and I got into journalism, and I've gotten magazine jobs, I've written books, I've become a writer. And then all these years later, finally get to meet Barbra. And what does Barbra say to me? "You're a very, very good writer." I don't know, guys. Is that karma? Is that fate? Is that some kind of divine intervention that she should say almost precisely what Miss Fitzgerald had said all those years before that got me into writing? I don't know. I kind of like the symmetry. As Barbra would say, it's like a bookend. It's a bookend. This bookend, that bookend. Anyway, before I go, I wanted to mention one more thing. On Friday night, I went to a concert in New York, not the Barbra concert. It was called the Hello Gorgeous concert, and it was a benefit for Broadway Cares, which is an AIDS charity. And they had all these wonderful stars there singing the Barbra Streisand songbook. And Lorna Luft was there, and Ann Hampton Calloway. Those were the two big names. And they sang Get Happy, Happy Days, just like Judy and Barbra. And they sang He Touched, the other women, other men in the group sang He Touched Me. There was a fantastic version of A Piece of Sky. The Way We Were, Evergreen, Tell Him. One guy came out and did a medley right out of My Name is Barbra. He sang A Kid Again, I'm 5, and Sweet Zoo, which was fantastic. It really was fantastic. But what my takeaway from that entire event was not only how great it is to hear all this great Barbra music and what an amazing catalog Barbra has. What I came away with was we really don't appreciate how great Barbra is, because those songs are hard to sing. I mean, some girl tried to sing Come to the Supermarket in Old Peking. Somebody else tried to sing Cry Me a River, The Music That Makes Me Dance. These are hard, hard songs. If you've ever tried to sing anything, you just know the stamina and strength it takes to stand on there. And all those people had just one song to sing. The very next night, Saturday night, I was back in the Barclays Center hearing Barbra sing, and she's up there doing like 24, 25 songs. The woman's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And she sounds fantastic. And I could not be more thrilled with the way the weekend turned out. I know I haven't shared a lot of news today in my Barbra broadcast. I promise Sunday we'll catch up with the news again, all the stuff going on. But for now, I hope you don't mind that I did a little more reminiscing. And I will be back on Sunday with the next edition of Sunday with Ally, the Barbra Streisand Videocast. And until then, this is Ally Waldman signing off, saying thank you to everybody who contributed to make my trip to New York and Brooklyn such a great success. And it was wonderful seeing you all. It was wonderful getting to meet Barbra. It was wonderful getting to hand her the book. And on that note, bye-bye, everybody. See you next week.